G'day folks, and welcome to Wise Guy History's list of the top 10 board game maps. Now this follows on my list from the top 10 war game maps, and this list excludes war games. I'm going to focus on pretty much all other types of games. And if you haven't seen my top 10 war game list, please check that out. This is now my top 10 board game list. What I'm focusing on here is not just boards themselves, but board games, boards or cards or mats that represent a physical geographical area. It is a mapping representation. I'm not just looking for a nice board, I'm looking for an actual map. And this can be fictional or non-fictional. But I'm really focusing, I'm trying to not consider the components. Components are important context, but I'm really focusing on the maps themselves, the representation of that area. As with my top 10 wargame map list, there are three core considerations at the front of my mind. There's first of all the art, creativity, style, aesthetics, what the map looks like. When you look at that map and you lay it out before anything happens, what does it look like? Does it appeal? Two, how much information does it convey? Are there layers of information? Is there detail in this map? Maps convey information, so how does it do that? And thirdly, to what extent is this map created to support the mechanics of the game? So to what extent can we analyze the map during gameplay? This is similar, 2 and 3 are quite closely related. 2 is kind of level of detail and its ability, the ability for the artist to layer information within an image, the map. And number 3 is how we're using that information. So that's almost complementary with the mechanics of the game. I have, sadly, some games that I have to exclude. I will talk about those at the end of the video, sadly, I want to emphasize. And I'll also talk about some notable honorable mentions as well. That'll be coming at the end. But let's begin the countdown. And my number 10 game is Hunt for the Ring. This was published by Ares Games. It is a hidden movement game where one player, it's 2 to 5 player game, but it works best with 2. One player will play as Frodo and his companions. The other player will play as the Nazgul, who are basically trying to hunt them down. And it all takes place over this map. This isn't the best quality image, it's a bit blurry, but it kind of captures this region. And let me try and find a similar image that captures the map. Here we go. Here's another one. So you're moving point to point across this. Frodo and the companions are doing hidden movement through this area, so you're always studying this map. You're always looking at this map. Aesthetically, it's beautiful. It kind of captures that, everything from the player boards, the tokens, components, they're contextual, but the map itself is really lovely to look at. The font, the style, the road networks are very clear. It's a beautiful map. It conveys a sound layer of information, but it's really fascinating to study as well. So really good marks across the board for this. I will point out that there are 3 listed designers, Marco Maggi, Gabriele Mari, and Francesco Nepitello. And again, this was published by Ares Games in 2017. If anyone's played War of the Ring, this is complementary. So you can play Hunt for the Ring, and the outcome from Hunt for the Ring informs your game of War of the Ring. There are some components from Hunt for the Ring that will affect your subsequent play of War of the Ring. I've never actually done that. I've played a lot of War of the Ring, I've played a lot of Hunt for the Ring, but I've never combined the two, but you can do that. So that takes out number 10 spot for me. Hunt for the Ring by Ares Games. Number 9 is Battlestar Galactica. Is this a map? I believe so. It is a map of the ship. It's a map of space. It's a physical representation of the area around the ship. What I like about this is the thematic immersion that the map facilitates. So in terms of art style, look, it's relatively straightforward. It's a map of the Battlestar Galactica, and you move around from location to location in the Battlestar Galactica. But then you've got the space around the ships. You've got the map of space, and enemy forces and your forces move around that map. Civilian ships move around that map. So a lot of gameplay is focused on that map. Now you're not really studying the map as you do in other games. There is a good level of detail here, and it really conveys. So that the detail, the layers, and the art style, those first two criteria, they really work to immerse you in the theme. You become so connected, and when you jump onto one of these ships, you fly around and you shoot down Cylon raiders and the like. And it's really exciting, and it's all, the miniatures certainly play a role, but the map itself, looking at that map and flying around and shooting these ships and removing them from the board, yeah, it's a great game great board to play over. Honourable mention, I should mention here, for Unfathomable, which is the recent sort of re-implementation of this design with a Lovecraftian theme. Well worth checking that as well. Lovely board as well. But this is the one that I've used the most. So, you know, we can consider these on par with each other. And that takes out number 9 for me. All right, so my number 8, I should point out the designer is Corey Kinesia. Number 8 is Scythe. Now this is again a fictional map, but it's a really beautiful style. And look, I've really consciously tried to separate my love of the art style and the cards. The cards and the art are incredible. I will point out that this is inspired by Jacob Rosalski's art, which features prominently on so many of the cards. You can see them down here. So Jacob's art inspired this game design, and yeah, it features prominently, but I've put that aside. I'm not rating this 8 because of the art. I'm rating this 8 because of the map that you play over. It's a really beautiful map, a lot of detail. It really conveys, it really extends the theme and the feeling onto the map itself. You've got the rivers, you've got the lakes, you've got the factory in the middle, your home settings, everything from the farms and the mines, everything really conveys the theme. So it's a really lovely, it's big as well. So, you know, they could have skimped and done a map half the size, but because the map is so central and this is what you're looking at, it's big. And beyond that, you can get an extended size map, which is about 50% extra as well. One of the expansions came with a larger map, which makes this even bigger. I think that itself is a reflection of the quality of the map and the centrality of the map to gameplay and how much people love the map. I think it's fine at this size, but having a bigger map, you know, brings out that detail even more. So Scythe with, look, I think Jacob, I don't know if, designed by Jamie Stegmaier, published by Stonemaier Games. I know Jacob had the kind of original art, which inspired this. I don't know if he actually designed the board game, the map art, or if Jamie or Alan did that. But yeah, Scythe taking out my number 8, a really beautiful, colourful, thematic map. For number 7, we move on to Oath. Now this is a Colwell design with art by Kyle Ferrin. It is in effect, well, it's almost an area control game. It's quite a dynamic game. It's a game where the rules of the game, or rather the victory conditions for the game, are constantly kind of evolving and changing, and you're shaping them, different player roles, different paths to victory. And a lot of your focus is on this neoprene mat. So the game comes with a neoprene rolled up mat, and these little areas are areas that you're trying to control. You've got your people on them. But below all that, so the art itself is beautiful. The cards are really thematic. And again, I have separated that from my assessment of the map. I think the map it's really hard to get a zoomed in image. But this is sort of an overview of the map. This is the neoprene map, which is quite large. Not huge, but a decent size. But it's that really beautiful art and a subtle shifting of the colours as you go from the cradle, which are regions nearer to you, to the provinces, to the hinterland. There's this subtle shifting of the colour in the background. Really lovely detail as a backdrop to these regions and areas and locations that you're moving to. It's functional. There's a lot of detail on the map. So for me, it's a beautiful work of art. So top marks for artistic style. It contains a lot of decent amount of detail, I should say, but it's also something that serves a really clear function. You're not necessarily studying the map. This is not something you study like you do in a war game, but it's been arranged to clearly convey the information. An overview of the map gives you that sense of the three provinces without sort of it doesn't want to zoom in without being too jagged. It's not like there's no big black line here. There's no line separating. Even the division between the areas is very subtle. You've got that yellow outline. It's just a really beautiful map to play on, and it's interesting. It is a map. It's an abstracted representation of three regions with the areas within them, and you travel between the areas. So it's quite abstract, but it's a map, and it's beautiful, colourful, and fun to play over. So number 7 for me. Number 6 is Feudum. This is a design by Mark Swanson, artist Justin Schultz. Publisher is Odberg Games, published in 2018. This has a very quirky, creative style of art, and much like with Oath, it is fun to play over. You can see the sort of various areas on the board. This is sort of not what I love about this is it's kind of a three-dimensional angled view, 45-degree kind of angle, three-dimensional sort of art style, which is really kind of quirky and fun, and it really complements the broader style of the game. How do I explain this? This is a really interesting game. It is, I guess, there's elements of, let's find the overview. There's elements of area control. So what's to say? There is area majority influence, hand management, simultaneous action selection, and action queue. In a nutshell, but it really is quite 4.58 weighting out of 5, and it all takes place. You're often focused on the regions around the edge of the board, so you're moving around here and performing actions here and off board as well, but that map is often the central focal point for your analysis. I won't go into too much detail because it's been a long time since I've played it. I don't want to get anything wrong, but yeah, in terms of the map, I love the art style. I love this creative, quirky, comical style of map with a lot of little detail if you explore it. It doesn't contain a lot of information. It's just pretty much a straight map that you play over, but the relationship between things is very important. So again, high level of functionality, and you end up studying this map and its details and connections and so forth. But yeah, look, I think just the colour, the style, and again, it's your focus for analysis. So it takes out number 6 for me. Number 5 is probably going to be no surprise. It's Brass Birmingham. So this is a design by Gavin Brown, Matt Tolman, Martin Wallace. Artists are credited as Gavin Brown, Lena Cassette, David Forrest, Guy Landgraf, Damien Mamaliti, and Matt Tolman. So I don't know who had lead design of the map itself, but basically this is a map of, what's the region here? It is, what's the region? It's around Birmingham, but I've forgotten what the name of the region is actually. It's, it's not quite. It's the Midlands, I think. Apologies if you're in England. Tell me where this is. The Midlands, I want to say. It's not quite the north, is it? So yeah, Middle England, geographically. It goes from, you've got, here it is. It goes from Warrington, Stoke-on-Trent, Nottingham out in the right, Derby, Burton-on-Trent, Tamworth, Birmingham, Coventry, that's where my family's from, Redditch, Worcester, Gloucester, Coalbrookdale, Shrewsbury out here. And it's really kind of grim and evocative of this period. This is black country, we are told on the map, from 1770 to 1870, the Industrial Revolution. You are building canals and eventually rail networks between these towns to send supplies and build industry. It's a fascinating game. And the map, so the map is double-sided. You've got a day map. So this is, believe it or not, the day map. And then this is the night map. This is the same area. So here's Tamworth, Birmingham here, and here's Tamworth and Birmingham. So yeah, it really kind of captures the feeling of this period. And when you build your canals, they just get kind of placed on, or train, they get placed on this map without interrupting anything. You build your industries on these tiles, and it gets added to the map without interfering with anything. It kind of adds and enhances the flavour. So look, really, and again, detail. If you can zoom in on the detail here, you can go look at Birmingham and the lights in the city. It's lovely. Everything around here, the lamp around the edge, even the little, bordering around the Victory Point tracker on the outside is beautiful. So it's a beautiful map. It has many layers of information, and it's a map that you study and analyze. So very high marks across the board there. Fascinating game, and currently ranked number 1 on Boardgame Geek. It's not one of my favourite games. I rank it 8 out of 10. It's a solid game. It's a keeper, a Euro game. But yeah, the map is certainly a highlight for many, myself included. So number 5 for me. Moving down to number 4. And this is a kind of it's quite old now, 2009's Stronghold. This is being republished as Stronghold 2nd edition. I do not have a copy of this. I have the 1st edition copy, but I will show you the 2nd edition map. I don't know how much has changed. Yeah, it's been some changes, but both maps are beautiful. This is a siege situation. It's a Euro game. It's not a war game. So you're focusing on the mechanics of that Euro game. You can see the cubes here of my 1st edition copy. There's the map side by side. So this is a good image here. But look, the map itself, you lay this map out and it looks amazing. And I love looking at this map. And it just is really evocative of this siege situation. And it's lovely to look at, lovely to study, lovely to play over. So here's my 1st edition copy, which is a bit more colourful. The 2nd edition is larger. Not quite twice as large, probably 50% larger. It's interesting. So the areas where you place your troops effectively are probably a bit clearer. Here's my 1st edition copy. Here's where you place your troops. In 2nd edition, they're a bit darker. They blend into the environment. It's kind of a darker, grimmer setting here now. Very brown, dark, but still, beautiful. I'm putting these side by side. 1st edition, beautiful map. 2nd edition, different map, same kind of environment, but still, really fascinating. And again, because it's a siege situation, adding the tokens, it's a very functional design. Neither detracts nor adds to the value. The map is great. You could use miniatures certainly. You need to draw these out of a bag and so forth. So for me, look, beautiful art style, conveys a lot of information. So the information is on all these little things here. It's certainly something that you study, and you're analysing the map and what's going on to play the game. So a wonderful to-play game. I don't get to play it enough because it's quite unique in the sense that there's a bit of a learning curve. Every time we go to play it, it's fairly high complexity, 3.67 out of 5. A difficult game to get to the table. because there's nothing quite like it. So that is Stronghold, Ignacy Trevishek, with art by Marius Genzel, Thomas Jezrusek and Mikhail Orash, and published by Boardgames in 2009, second edition. When was it published? I should get a second edition copy because it's so good, 2015. And taking out number 4 for me. Just the map is is one of my favourite parts of this game. Gameplay is wonderful, 8 out of 10 for me, but the map is what stands out for me. Which brings me to number 3. Is this a map? I argue yes it is. High Frontier for All, designed by Phil Eklund, Justin Gray, John Manker and Dom Rugier. Art by Anna Lindberg and Josephine Strand. This is played over a map of space and navigational routes through space. So it's a space roadmap in effect. And again, my favourite part of this game is that space roadmap and studying this space roadmap. I think this looks, if I can show you, find an image with the whole map, I think the map looks amazing. All right, so I love to look at this map of space, and you look at the planets and then the moons and everything about it, and you place everything in context. There is so much information conveyed in this map. So a huge level of detail from, what was it, solar, the strength of solar energy coming off the sun, to gravitational pull of planets and moons and the like, to the makeup, the mineral makeup of these planets and whether or not they have water, and on, so much more. There's even sort of, the Lagrange points, the gravitational points in space where the gravity from two bodies cancels out. So much information here. And of course, you study it in immense detail, and I love that. So it's beautiful. It's a lot of detail, and you study this map in great detail. You've got your spaceship here setting off from a space factory, spaceport somewhere, which you've set up by the looks of this. Where is this? I don't know where this is. I can't read that. But yeah, you're off in space somewhere. You set off and you have to calculate your fuel to the next planet to stop at and land and refuel and things like that. So look, really high marks across the board here for High Frontier for All. And it hits third. I'm thinking should it even be higher. Maybe how could they make this more beautiful? I don't know. But yeah, really good, and third spot for me. As we move up to number 2, my number 2 is the Gallerist. This is a Vital Lacerda design with art by Ian O'Toole. Now, I love Ian O'Toole. His art, he's particularly renowned for his iconography and his kind of clear, functional iconography throughout his game. If I can just show you Ian O'Toole, he's been involved in many game designs over the years, and he's got quite a distinctive style. And I think in recent years in particular, he's been highly sought out for his approach to game iconography and the sort of ease of gameplay that is facilitated by that iconography. It's wonderful, but here, again, I am looking at the map, and I love the Gallerist's map. It's top marks for art. It's a game about art. It's a game about sponsoring artists, promoting them, getting them to produce work, increasing the value of that work, and then selling this work in art galleries. So these are art galleries here. This is the foyer of the art gallery. This is sort of the central area. So what you're looking at here, it's kind of hard to explain, is kind of an artistic district of a town. And you move between the art galleries, you enter the foyer, you go into the art gallery and look at the pieces of art on the wall. They're all kind of depicted in these tiny little images. So it's an incredible, lovely amount of detail. You've got people walking around these areas. Then you've got this sort of central circle where you move between. It's really quite again, this could just be boxes. Move to this box, move to this box. But what Vital and Ian O'Toole have done is, this beautiful, again, kind of like with Feudum, this sort of, not quite just top down, but a sort of 3D representation of these art galleries and the environment around it. They've got cars driving around, all this little detail that is not needed, but adds to the flavour and the theme and that feeling of, you being a gallerist, sponsoring artists, displaying their work of art, travelling around, schmoozing people in the foyer. You bring these people, these VIPs, into your gallery and you talk to them. Look, and it's all, the theme is captured by this art. It's really beautiful, and it's one of Vital's, they're all kind of moderate heavy complexity, but this is one of the easiest ones to get into. I think it's the most thematic. It's my favourite, I think, Vital sort of game. And I think a large part of that is because of this map, just this map that you're playing over. So beautiful. It doesn't convey a lot of information, to be honest. It's fairly straightforward. Again, it could just be boxes, but the art, the visual elements really stand out for me, and that's why it's number 2. All right, folks, heading into my number 1, 7th Citadel and 7th Continent. Again, I'm putting these side by side. This is a design by Ludovic Roudy and Bruno Sautier, with art by Ludovic Roudy. And 7th Citadel, they've both worked on the design again, with art by Ludovic Roudy. I haven't rated 7th, I have rated 7th Citadel. It's currently a 9. It's probably going to go up. 7th Continent, my wife and I played this and we loved it. The image I'm going to show you will have small spoilers for the first couple of things you do, but not big spoilers here. This is kind of the first thing you'll see when you play the game. I won't show too much more beyond this. So you start off somewhere on this island and you begin exploring, and you draw these cards to build your map. And in 7th Continent, you end up building this vast map. And I've got photos which I won't show you because it'll spoil it for those who really want to play it. But it's really lovely. You're building this map and you have to study the map because there could be clues on this map. So there might be like numbers that appear. When you see these numbers, you have to draw the corresponding card. You explore the cliffs over here, for example, and you draw card 005, which reveals these cliffs. Things can happen to you. Maybe you can try and climb down. If you fail, if you succeed, you draw a new card. If you fail, all characters involved get injured, things like this. Everything happens on this map. You may have, wild animals that appear on the map. You may find sort of some footprints. So you'll explore the footprints and find some food, some animal, a boar to hunt on the map. So everything happens kind of on the map. You'll have a hand that you are using to perform actions, which I won't go into the detail of that, but yeah, everything happens on the map. You're always studying the map. Every time you draw a new tile, the very first thing you do is you pick up that, it's actually set up on my table right now. You pick up that tile and you look closely. The game even comes with a little magnifying glass that you can use to study the map. So my wife loves to do this. So we draw a new tile, she picks it up and she studies the map, looking for clues, looking for numbers, looking for anything that we may need to know. And they're small cards. They're only sort of maybe 3 inches by 3 inches square, roughly, what's that, 7.5 centimeters or so. I could be wrong there. I'll see if it's in the description. No, it doesn't say how big they are. But yeah, it's really lovely. So 7th Continent, you discover the continent. 7th Citadel was released this year and it is even better. It comes with a regional map, which you can kind of see in the background here. So this is the regional map. So you'll start off in a certain area and you'll begin exploring the region. This is not a spoiler. This is the map you get at the start. You know the region, but you don't know what's going on. But you'll gradually add details to this region. So it's almost like a legacy kind of game. You're still exploring a region. And again, this is not a spoiler. This is the very first thing you see pretty much. You're still exploring a region. You'll add to the region. It starts off very close and almost tactical, but then it zooms. This is, one little region, so you're exploring a building, the Citadel, but then you're exploring the broader region area around the Citadel, and then you're exploring an even bigger region. So it's almost like it starts off small, gets bigger, and then gets even bigger and bigger. But what's special about this is Seventh Continent did have a few kind of cards for scenarios, but this really takes that to a whole new level, and it kind of it focuses more on shorter stories. So Seventh Continent, you do a large scenario which could take you 20, 30 hours to play through. Seventh Citadel gives you more bite-sized chunks where you're playing scenarios which could take you 1 to 3 or 4 hours that are part of a larger campaign. So it supports gameplay better. It supports recovery better. So in the Seventh Citadel, you get 20 hours in and then die. And it's all over. And you've spent 20 hours for that. In the Seventh Citadel, if you are struggling, you can just return to the Citadel and you may fail the scenario, but it's not game over. You continue. And there's a legacy aspect of that. And you're doing other things as well. Like you're building up, I think this might be a draft version, but you're building your capacity within your camp. What else? I don't want to give away too much, but you are building buildings in your camp and all this kind of stuff. But gameplay principally revolves around exploring these tiles. This isn't the best illustration of that, but I don't want to spoil too much. All I can say is, look, if you like, it works brilliantly solo. So it's a great solo game. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful two-player game. I've tried to play with the kids and they weren't fans of it. With 3 players, 4 players, it does slow down a little bit. I'd recommend it as a 1 or 2 player game. If you like exploration adventure games, even to an extent sort of role-playing games, because you develop your character and you develop your character's strengths and have some weaknesses based on the deck of cards you're building. If you're familiar with Earthborn Rangers, it's somewhat similar to that, where you are building a deck of cards which reflects your character. You have items and weapons and equipment that you'll carry with you. Your deck may be enhanced with certain, you may focus on building successes in your deck so that when you draw cards to test, you are more successful. Or you may focus your deck on building capabilities that can enhance the use of certain weapons, things like that. But again, all this gameplay revolves around what you do on this map. This is your focus. You're looking at these cards. You're looking at whether or not to explore here, whether to look out over the perch here, whether to open a cupboard here, for example. It all takes place on the map, and then you draw cards to perform the action. So for me, and again, it's hard to separate Seventh Continent and Seventh Citadel because the fundamentals of map exploration are the same in effect. It's just implemented slightly better in Seventh Citadel. If you have neither, either are a great starting point. You'll probably find, we found that after dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of gameplay, that we got very tired of playing it. So we kind of dropped the rating a bit from a 10 to an 8. For Seventh Citadel, because we're still at the early stages, it's a 9. I'm not being too overly optimistic. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. But it will very likely go up if it can sustain that replayability for many more hours. So look, either are great to start with. If you can only pick one, I'd go Seventh Citadel, simply because it fixes a lot of the death elimination issues with Seventh Continent. I'm sorry, but this is still a wonderful game, which takes out my. Well, but they're both equal first, Seventh Continent and Seventh Citadel. All right, folks, that brings me to the end. Honourable mentions now. Okay, so, well, first of all, what couldn't I consider? I thought War of the Ring, certainly, and I thought Maria and Friedrich. But they're kind of war games. They're beautiful maps, beautiful games. Maria, Friedrich, very similar. War of the Ring and Middle-earth Quest both have a similar flavour, but I think on Boardgame, according to Boardgame Geek, they're both war games. They're not strategy games, they're war games. So I've kind of intentionally excluded them. Some honourable mentions for dungeon crawlers. Now, I've placed dungeon crawlers together because, yes, they're maps. They're maps of a dungeon. And I was trying to think, what dungeon crawler really stands out for me. Descent is wonderful. Hero Quest has a really kind of clear map. I thought about Kingdom Death Monster. It's a map, sort of. But it's not really a map. It's just a ground, a floor. It's like, well, technically a map, but beautiful art on it. But you're not really. It's not conveying any information unless you start adding tiles to it. I thought of what other dungeon crawls did I think of? I thought of a lot of dungeon crawls, but none really stood out for me. I just thought they're a lot of differences across dungeon crawlers. You may want to list your own. Feel free to comment below if there's a particular dungeon crawler that stands out for you. I know Descent for me really stands out. I'm trying to think what other. Claustrophobia is another one with really beautiful art. But again, just didn't quite make the top 10. Root. So I mentioned Colville. Root stands out for me as a really beautiful map. Just not missing the top 10. Pax Pamir, probably a war game, but really quite a Euro-y mechanical war game. And looking at it looks beautiful. But the map itself has nothing on it really, just a couple of boundaries. It's only when you add, and I thought about this, and I looked at the map and I thought, if I take these pieces off, there's nothing there. And so it didn't quite make the top 10, but if I were to include components as well and say most beautiful board game, spoiler alert, that'll be coming up soon, then Pax Pamir would probably make the list because I love the color shades there and everything. And another one is photosynthesis, but again, it's again without the components, it's just plain. Once you add the trees, it really becomes beautiful. Without the trees, there's nothing there. It's still nice, but for me, wouldn't quite make the list. So folks, I hope that's been of interest. As always, this is very subjective. I would encourage you to comment below, have a think about your own top 10. Again, if you want to make a top 10 and then paste it below, or create a video and share the link below so others can look at that. This is always fun to do. I love thinking about this because whenever I create these lists, I kind of dive into all these old games and I think and I compare and I was like, and it really kind of adds to my appreciation. So I didn't think much of Birmingham initially, but then, I start looking at these images and I think, wow, that's a really beautiful map. And the same with Feudum. It's a game that, I had to think, is this a map? Does it stand out? There's a game down the bottom here. It really gets you thinking about the art behind this and the creativity that goes into it. All right, folks, thanks very much. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. What have I missed? Thanks for watching and take care. Bye.